The biggest question surrounding Colorado head coach Deion Sanders is, where is his next job? At least that's what some people are asking.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's have some fun talking about the Colorado Buffaloes. So, like I said in my cold intro, my cold open, if you will, it's been this common discussion about Deion Sanders, right? It's as soon as he took the Colorado job, people were immediately like, okay, if he's successful, he's going to take the Florida job. He's going to take the Florida State job. It was like, we're going to figure out what job is next for him, because by all means, Colorado cannot be it for Coach Prime, right? That's sort of been the thought process from those around college football. That's sort of been like this underlying mindset of like, okay, it's fine for now, but eventually he's going to spread his wings and fly. And it's like, one, I've never understood why that's the thought, right? And I'll dive into that. But I think people underestimate how much he loves Colorado, how much he loves the school, and how much power the school gives him. And I think that weighs into it. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. A local Denver radio host went on his show, 92.5 Altitude Sports host Alex, I don't want to mispronounce his last name, Rajemi, I believe is how you say it. And he said, let's say the quiet power out loud. Deion's time here at Colorado is very, very numbered unless you find a way to compete with 25 million to 30 million freshman classes, unless you find a way to put a true cap system in or go to collective bargaining, right? So basically he's saying that unless Colorado can fork over $25 to $30 million per year for freshman classes, which is, what some people are spending or around there, that he's going to leave Colorado and go to a school that could spend more. Well, I want to dive into that thought process, one as a whole. For starters, I don't think college football, and I don't know when it's going to be fixed, right? I'm not one of the powers that be. I don't think college football is going to continue to stay in this open market of just like, hey, you have money, you spend it however you want, right? I think there's going to be some sort of cap limit. I think there's going to be some sort of collective bargaining. I don't know what that looks like or when that happens, but I don't think college football as it is right now, college basketball, basically the two sports that are generating the most revenue or cash flow, they can't continue this way, right? It is what it is, right? These sports are not built to just constantly pay recruits X amount of dollars and get basically no ROI, right? These big boosters aren't going to be forking over money forever, because at the end of the day, I don't know how much interest or how much return they're getting on their investment. So these are the biggest spenders in college football, according to coaches via a survey on On3. And these are just some of the programs that I think people assume. Like, first of all, people assume that every program is spending $25 to $30 million. Not every program has that, right? So these 10 programs, let's assume they're spending in that range. And then let's just take a look-see at, one, is there going to be a coaching opening? Two, is there going to be a coaching opening soon? Three, is there a booster that's super involved, right? Or are the boosters super involved? So let's run through the list. One, Texas. Steve Sarkisian doesn't seem to be going anywhere. They're back-to-back playoff appearances, college football playoff semifinal appearances. Texas is one of the biggest spenders in the country. They just literally yesterday, they flipped a defensive lineman, the number one defense lineman in the country from Georgia, and then they went into Georgia and landed the number one linebacker in the country. Number two, Texas Tech, right? Obviously, the Red Raiders are the biggest spenders. The Red Raiders, I saw a report yesterday, I think it was from Pete Nakos as well. They're overpaying on recruits. I think it was 30% more because of the location of their program, like in Lubbock. So clearly it's not a hotbed. It's not like you're not going to live in Nashville. You're not going to live in Austin. You're not going to live in Baton Rouge, like one of these cool party towns. Lubbock, I'm sure, is a fine place, right? But it's definitely got its downsides, I think you could say. And Texas Tech is having to spend a lot more money. Granted, they have a billionaire on their side, right? One of their biggest boosters is the landman himself, right? Is there a job opening there? I think it would take a bad season from Joey McGuire this year to be put on the hot seat. I don't think he's on the hot seat at all. I don't even know if Texas Tech would be willing to move on from him, right? And that's assuming Texas Tech is going to be bad. I expect them. I had them number 1 in my preseason rankings. Number 3 for the Big 12. Number 3, Ohio State, right? Ryan Day's fresh off a title. Regardless of how psychotic Ohio State fans are, I don't think there's any opening there. Also, they're spending a lot of money because Ohio State's a historic program with a lot of people who support it. Oregon, number 4. Dan Lanning just inked a massive deal. I think it was this offseason or the year before. So I don't think he's going nowhere, right? They made it to the playoff this past year. They won the Big Ten. They have Uncle Phil's money, Nike money. They seem fine. Texas A&M, this would be another job. This was one of the jobs that if I was a Colorado fan, I had circled last year, being concerned about, or I guess 2 years ago now, being concerned about coming after Deion Sanders, right? But I don't think the timing aligned. And Texas A&M has a very, very good head coach right now in place. So, and they seemed pretty solid last year. So I don't think they're going to be making any changes, right? I don't think there's going to be any Mike Elko. Wow, sound like the birds from Finding Nemo. I think Mike Elko has things under control, and I think there's a lot of strong booster presence at Texas A&M who may not let Deion Sanders do whatever he wants. Let's just put it that way. Miami, number 6. I mean, I feel like Mario Cristobal is doing just fine. I don't think he's on the hot seat by any means. They were close to making the playoff last year. They have Carson Beck this year, which they are hoping to make the playoff again. I would expect Miami would have to have a pretty bad season for Mario Cristobal to even be on the hot seat. I think he'd get this year and the next year. So there's a ways away before worrying about that. USC, I mean, maybe, right? Lincoln Riley on the hot seat, but they owe a ton of money. And let's just say USC is not really in a great financial position right now. I believe they are. Their president who destroyed the Pac-12, Carol Folt, she destroyed the Pac-12 and then she left USC in debt. So I don't really think, even if Lincoln Riley had a terrible season this year, I don't think they would move on. Michigan, Sherrone Moore's year 2. They just landed a huge quarterback in Bryce Underwood. He's not going anywhere. Tennessee, Josh Heupel is doing just fine. Auburn, Hugh Freeze, maybe, right? But the Auburn boosters they're intense, and I think they want someone who's going to lead them to national contention right away, and there's going to be a ton of pressure there. And I don't know if they let Deion Sanders do his thing. And I think you could say that for all these schools outside of Texas Tech, maybe, because Texas Tech had a lot of transfers, where all these programs, they're going to want the coach to do things their way. And Deion Sanders prides himself on doing things his way, right? That is his whole MO, where it's like, I come to Colorado, I build the roster how I want via the transfer portal. I will, I guess, market my brand. I will have my own TV show. I will have multiple Netflix or Amazon film documentary crews inside this facility walls at all times. And I just think that there's a lot of ifs when it comes to Deion Sanders leaving. Like, I think people are so excited to talk about this. Like, when will he leave, or will he leave? I think we just have to recognize that, hey, maybe there's a chance that he likes where he's at. They give him everything he's asked for. Like, he's one of the highest paid coaches in college football. I think he's number 5 or 4. And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, maybe just let the guy do his thing and we'll see what happens, right? And I've said this for the longest time, right? Because I think people, my lip is itchy. I think people have this thought like he's going to leave for another coaching job. I firmly believe that if Deion Sanders leaves Colorado, it's not going to be to coach. Right? I think it's going to be to step away from coaching, to step into the media again, or just to give himself a break. Right? I don't think there's going to be a job out there that, one, gives him the systematic support from the top down, like Rick George is very supportive of him, lets him do whatever he wants pretty much. There's not going to be a program where the boosters are very hands-off and kind of let him do anything. And there's not going to be a program like Colorado where I think he's very, how do I say this? I think Deion Sanders wants to create a legacy for himself, and I don't think he wants to go to another program where he's going to be constantly compared to someone else. So while I understand where people are coming from when they talk about this, I don't see it happening. That's all I got to say on that matter. When we come back, Colorado has one of the toughest schedules in the country. Which games are the toughest and where does it rank? Let's talk about it. But first, a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Now, for those of you who want to get in on the action, FanDuel is the place to be because summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? You could get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. It's easy to use. There's fast payouts, and it makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5. It's $5, and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, give me 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts, and let's have some fun. The Colorado Buffaloes, they have one of the tougher schedules in college football. We're going to run through it. But where exactly does it rank? Because I think a lot of people underestimate their schedule. I think just because they're in the Big 12, they don't get that benefit of the doubt of being like, oh, there's actually some tough games on here. No, people want to, I guess, diminish what they're doing. But Phil Steele, who's one of the most renowned college football minds there is, does a great preseason preview every year. He ranked the top 50 hardest schedules in college football. And there's obviously a lot of SEC teams, but coming in at number 18 are the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, let me explain why Colorado's schedule is so tough. For starters, you open the year against a Georgia Tech team that I don't know if they'll be playing the ACC championship, but I think there's a path to them being in the top 4 teams in the ACC. If you told me they finished second in the ACC and had a chance to win the title and play for the playoff, I wouldn't be surprised, right? They have Haynes King. I really like what Brent Key's doing over there. So I think that's a really tough opener. It's not, which Colorado has had tough openers in each of Deion Sanders' 3 seasons at the helm. Opens his career at Colorado against TCU on the road. Last season, North Dakota State at home, which North Dakota State is one of the best FCS programs in the country. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, they like to challenge themselves early, and so far, Coach Prime is 2-0 in week 1 games, or week 0 games, I guess. But Georgia Tech, even though it's a home game, still a tough game. Colorado is actually the underdogs there. Delaware is not a tough matchup at all. But this is where things get a little complicated, right? September 12th through October 11th, or even October 25th, really. So you go from weeks 3 through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, I guess if you count the bye week. Brutal stretch, right? At Houston. The Houston Cougars are going to shock some people. They have a good defense. They have a much better quarterback. And head coach Willie Fritz is in year 2. And I expect them to take a huge jump over there in Houston. Plus, it's on the road. I expect it to be a hostile-ish environment. I don't know if Houston's like the most buzzing crowd or most buzzing stadium, but I think when Deion Sanders comes to town, it'll be popular. Right after Houston. It doesn't get any easier, and I think this is where the stretch starts to get a little bit harder. Wyoming, they should beat them, but Wyoming's been a tough team lately. I don't know what it is about the Wyoming Cowboys, but they play teams close. They have not been a rollover victory for Power 4 teams as of late. We'll just look at them this past season. I mean, Washington State, not a Power 4 team, but Power 4 roster, I guess, in a way. They beat them 15-14. Boise State, they, again, not a Power 14, but they had them on the ropes, right? They lost 17-13. BYU 34-14. That game was close-ish at times. The year before, they played a Texas team coming off of a huge win against Portland State and kind of made life difficult on them until the very end. So Wyoming, tough. It's not a rollover win, right? Wyoming's going to make things difficult. I do expect Colorado to beat them, but again, not the easiest. Just you're going to come in, blow them out. BYU is projected to be a top 10 team. That being said, they lose Jake Retzlaff, but they still have a great defense, right? That doesn't change things. It was the defense that really gave Colorado troubles last year. And if their offense can be just average with whoever they have at quarterback, that's going to be tough. At TCU, I expect TCU to be one of the best teams in the country. TCU is going to want revenge. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Josh Hoover. Sonny Dykes is going to be extra motivated. He's kind of on the hot seat. So that's a tough matchup. Iowa State at home, which is a good thing, but Matt Campbell and the Cyclones are always tough. They're physical, and Colorado struggled last year with physical teams, right? The teams that beat them were the teams that were able to be more physical than them, and I think that's where Iowa State comes into play. You get a bye week, and then you get the Utah Utes on the road. Now, Colorado has handled Utah, I think, the past couple of years, or at least last year they did. I don't remember who won 2 years ago, and both the teams were absolutely terrible. I mean, let's look it up here, just because that'll bug me. Utah beat them to end the 2023 season. It was a close game, battle of the backups, whatever. But this past season, Utah was terrible. But they went out, got a new offensive coordinator. They have one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the country, and they are the current favorites to win the Big 12, right? So getting them on the road, I expect that to be a night game. That's going to be a tough matchup. You have to play Arizona State and Kansas State to end the year. Colorado just has to play some of the best teams in the Big 12, right? There's no way around it. You're probably playing 3 or 4 of the top 5 teams, and I think that's where it gets tough. I think that's why their schedule ranks as tough as it does. Some other notable programs ahead of them include Wisconsin at number 1, Arkansas 3, Syracuse, Fran Brown at number 5, UCLA 8, TCU's 11, Purdue 15, Auburn 17, right? So there's a lot of programs who are dealing with these tough schedules. But I think the Buffs, I think it's just the matter of they play a bunch of the best teams in the conference, a couple of them on the road, and you saw a step down in star power, right? You no longer have Shador, you no longer have Travis. So I think things get a little bit difficult there. So we will see how the Buffs manage to survive or navigate the schedule. But again, I've said this before, with BYU losing Jake Retzlaff, there's a world where I think Colorado starts the season 5-0, and then you're sitting pretty at 5-0. Obviously, you don't want to lose games after that, but you give yourself some cushion with Arizona and West Virginia back-to-back weeks. Those are both very winnable games. And then you just have to sort of win a game or two along the way against these ranked teams and hope that, I mean, obviously the hope is going undefeated, but if you're able to split the stretch of TCU, Iowa State, Utah, Arizona State, and Kansas State, if you're able to win 3 out of 5 or two out of those 5 after starting 5-0, I mean, you're looking at a 8 to 9 win season. That's pretty darn good. So we will see how tough the schedule actually is when the teams take the field. But right now, Colorado is viewed as being having one of the toughest schedules in the country. When we come back, I keep seeing people ask about Colorado's quarterback controversy, quarterback battle, quarterback debacle, if you will. I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win, what it's going to come down to, and why a decision hasn't been made, or at least public just yet. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, give me 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast, and let's have some fun. Let's do it right now. Let's talk about Colorado's quarterback battle. It's a battle that is very, very up in the air. I would say it's one of the few that's unsettled. Kalen DeBoer today kind of settled the Alabama battle, where it was like, hey, season starts today, we would start with Ty Simpson. Now, I don't really know if that's him necessarily naming Ty Simpson the starter, but it's pretty darn close. Gunnar Stockton went to the SEC Media Days for Georgia, so I think that battle's pretty much wrapped up. Who else? I feel like there's some other quarterback battles where it's like, okay, we don't know an answer there. But it's one of those things where Ohio State, I think, is another battle that's unsettled. But from what I've been told and heard Julian saying, Oregon is the one battle where I feel like it's still up in the mix. Same thing with Notre Dame, and Michigan. Other than that, there's not a ton of battles out there that I think trumps Colorado's. And if you're a Colorado fan, it's a good problem. Two really good options. You look at Nick, a year early, should be a senior in high school, and he's coming into a program ready to compete with one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in college football, Caden Salter. And so I fully expect Caden Salter, Julian Lewis to battle out. Now, here's why I think there hasn't been a winner decided. I think Deion Sanders, even though people don't realize this, as a coach, he's very much offensive minded. He called plays for Shador in high school, and he's very much, while I think he obviously knows a lot about defense, I think as a coach, he gravitates towards the offense. I think something about calling plays and like picking apart I think he enjoys that. So I think, the reason that the battle hasn't been decided, because they sent both Caden and Julian to Frisco for Big 12 Media Days. Coach Prime hasn't been there, right? Coach Prime hasn't been in Boulder, which the update on that is he's going to see Shiloh and Shador practice. Then he's going back to Boulder. But Coach Prime probably doesn't want to start a pick without him there, right? He probably wants to see the guys go at it. So the spring, it wasn't a waste, or all these summer workouts weren't a waste, but it certainly probably gave someone the edge, right? So if you're Caden Salter or Julian Lewis, you have to stand out to sort of give yourself the initial first team reps when fall camp rolls around, because Colorado, they don't have long for things to unfold. And I think I saw people questioning, like, will they play both? I don't think they want to play both. I'm going to be honest. I think playing both happens if someone's not doing good enough. And if that is the case, then it's certainly just not something that you want to deal with at the end of the day. But I think Deion Sanders wants to be present for the quarterback battle. I also think it hasn't been decided because I don't think the full roster has been there, right? You got to add in all the guys who've been missing, whether it's Sincere Brown, Jack Estera, the defensive players that they've recently added, like the transfer linebacker, the corners, the safeties, whatever it is. I think you need a full roster to get a full idea. That being said, I'm not going to say it erases anything that happened in the spring game or the practices before. I thought Caden Salter looked better in the spring game. I thought the ball and the offense was moving faster with him, moving better with him. But until he makes it obvious, like, hey, I'm the quarterback, Julian Lewis has a chance. Julian Lewis could throw the heck out of the ball. It was a beautiful ball. And I think Deion Sanders really, really wants to see it firsthand. I mean, he even said at Big 12 Media Days that he hasn't met some of the new guys yet, which is kind of crazy to think about, but his health has sidelined him. And I think when he's back, Colorado's quarterback question will be answered. I don't know how soon, but I imagine they're going to want to be it soon, or they're going to want to do it soon, because you're getting to a point where we are a month away, or not really a month away, but we're a little over a month away from Colorado's first game against Georgia Tech. This can't be a battle that goes right before the season, because the more time you spend splitting reps, the more reps whoever starts at quarterback is losing. So I think the Colorado Buffaloes have a very difficult choice to make. I think Deion Sanders' presence will make it easier. And I also think that whoever protects the ball and makes the most plays, I think that's how you decide the winner. If it's close, like if it's super close and you can't decide, I think you go with Caden Salter. And if he's not performing right away, you put Julian Lewis in eventually. You don't want to rattle Julian Lewis. You don't want to shake his confidence. And I think the best way to do that is to let him sit and learn for a little bit and then call on him when needed. Because if it's the other way around and you go to Julian too early and he struggles, then it's like, okay, is his confidence shot? Where's his mindset at? So that's my stance on the matter. You guys let me know what you think the Colorado Buffaloes should do when it comes to picking a quarterback. Let me know what you think. We're all going to try to figure this whole situation out, to say the least. So thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs. This has been another fun episode. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And again, see you tomorrow.